Yo, the new intro is okay, man.
Who's making them?
Jake Grabrot made that one.
Man, you got a little squad, man. What's up, man? I'm
just saying, you know, we do what we can with what we have. That's what we like to say, and we don't make any excuses. No excuses over here. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Joined by Mike Davis of the South Seattle Emerald. I think we'll be joined shortly here by Julia Jessie. So, Mike, before I go into some stuff, I got lots of clips, different things to talk about. Made some nice banners here that we'll throw up, like, you know, hey, the black vote fraud. You know what I'm saying? We'll put some effort into this. Tell me, man, what are your initial thoughts about this election thus far?
First off, Joe Biden, you're welcome. Black folks stepped up for you in a major, major way. So hopefully you remember that as time goes on. You know who put you in office. It was us. We know who flipped Atlanta. We know what happened in Philly. We know what happened in Detroit. So what's up? Like, what do you got for us now that we're here? With that being said, I am happy. It was time for Trump to get out. We can finally kind of laugh at some of this stuff that feels comical. I mean, he's grasping at straws right now, doing everything he can, but I can't wait to see him gone. And now it's time for the real push to really try to see if Joe Biden is actually going to do things for black folks, or if he just used us to get in office and now he's going to do whatever he wanted to do in the first place.
All right. Well, you bring up something interesting right there. You're talking about Uncle Joe. This is what he said election night.
I mean it, especially those moments, and especially those moments where this campaign was at its lowest ebb. The African-American community stood up again for me. You've always had my back, and I'll have yours.
Now, you heard it right there. He said, Mike Davis, you've always had his back, and now he's got yours.
Man, we're going to see what Joe does. Now, I will say that, you know, hopefully he cancels that student loan debt, you know, then I might have to shoot him a personal thank you. But outside of that, you know, and not all black folks went to college. You got to do something for all of us. It's interesting, too, because, you know, I got an uncle that always says that Democrats like to push politicians that are from the South because those are the ones that usually deal with black people. Joe Biden is from Delaware, but I think his state is like 20% black. So a lot of times those are the ones that know how to like hit the campaign trails. They go to the black churches and they get really good at talking the talk. But right now he's our president. So it's time for him to walk that talk and to actually step up for our community the way that we stepped up for him.
Okay. And this was Kamala Harris election night.
Women who fought and sacrificed so much for equality and liberty and justice for all, including the black women who are too often overlooked, but so often prove they are the backbone of our democracy.
Often overlooked, but the backbone, I don't think anybody's going to deny that.
No. And shout out to Stacey Abrams. I mean, look, we know what happened. We know who did it. Give credit where credit's due. And like I said, you know, we know Senator Harris, Vice President Harris's background. So hopefully she's ready to step up and kind of turn that around and do some major things for the community.
What are some of the things you'd like to see her do, or this administration do?
First and foremost, for many administration, reparations. Can we start there? When you look throughout history, there's so many different groups that have received reparations, and somehow when it comes to black folks, people will always want to sidestep and act like it's something that can't be done. It is something that can be done. I think that that's where they should start. I think number 2 on their list, that they have to look at the law and order stuff. Just given the history of our new president and new vice president and the harm that they've done to the black community, what are you going to do to turn that around? What are you going to do to fix that? And you got to look at education. You got to look at the wealth gap. I mean, there's so much that needs to be done, but I think that those are the specific places where they can start.
Are they going to do it, though?
You know, to be honest, for the black community, yes, I do think that that's where they should start. But yo, the coronavirus right now, man, like the numbers are through the roof. So I can't really imagine them starting anywhere else but right there. Like that's what.
Well, let's remove this banner. And we don't let me hold on. This is the best thing about live TV here, man. I'm here with Mike Davis. COVID-19. Pow. There you go. That is your topic.
That's where you have to start. And one thing about when we look at these presidential administrations, for some reason, whatever happens in the past just kind of gets erased, whether it was good things that happened before you or bad things that happened before you. Once you step into office, whatever the current issue is, it's yours, and that's what we kind of seen with Trump, where he kind of claimed the economy that Obama built, and then he just tried to run with it like he did everything. Well, right now, they're being handed this pandemic. And we need to know what direction we're going to go in, because right now our country is trending the wrong way. So first things first, will this administration be able to turn this thing around and get us back to a healthier place?
So, man, all of these vaccines are coming out, and they're coming out around the time that Trump said they were going to be coming out. And he was like, man, in November, sometime in November. And, everybody at the time was like, oh, he's going to make the vaccine come out before Election Day. But, there's one out. I think they said there's a second one coming out. They said that, it sounds like a challenge. They said they got to keep it at -94. That's even colder than you, Mike. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
But and that like regular people like me and you would a vaccine would be available to like the regular citizens in like March. But the vaccines are coming. The first one wasn't part of President Trump's program, his Warp Speed program. They were just, doing their thing. And I think the other one was. But, it's still a ways to go on that. But maybe that's the first step here in this COVID-19.
Well, the vaccine is definitely going to be the first step. But honestly, I think Joe Biden is really going to have to figure out how to get the confidence of the country to take the vaccine. You already had people who were anti-vaxxers before. You already had communities of people who weren't going to trust any rush vaccine from the government. But now that you had a Trump administration that went against science so strong and like forced so many people in our country to take 2 steps backwards, it's going to be hard to turn all of these people around and actually get folks to want to take the virus. So, there's challenge on top of challenge for Joe Biden, and it's really going to be interesting how he handles this. And we are not going to let him forget the Black community as all of this keeps playing out. So, yeah, he has his hands full for sure.
All right. So there's something here, right? And people were talking about. I had a conversation earlier with a few different journalists around there, and everybody was talking about, well, man, how's Seattle going to feel now that, it looks like Biden is going to be elected in the White House and everything else. And people were like, yeah, maybe the tensions around Seattle be different. Trump was calling Seattle out a lot, anarchist district and some of everything else. Talked a lot about our mayor, the governor. But, I kind of told him, like, I really don't see a lot of stuff changing. To be honest with you, I'm going to be a bit surprised. This was something, I know we're talking about the national election, but since you were talking about earlier, like, what kind of changes are we going to see? This was me on Monday. Trey Holiday is like decade after decade, liberal Democrats here, Washington State, they've overseen the constant decline of Black people in this city. Democrats have run City Hall for 30 years, Trey Holiday. By the time Governor Inslee's term expires, Democrats would have been in the State House for 4 decades. Our Democratic lawmakers here, they speak with empathy, but they act with malice, Trey. We hear these words every election season, how they feel our pain, but it's the very same system that these Democrats have in many cases weaponized against our community that causes the very pain that they claim to feel and understand. You got to remember, the liberal Democrats here have a long timeline of working against the best interests of our community in Seattle, from Operation Weed and Seed to the upzoning, which is taxing our elders out of their homes like Ruby Holland. You somehow, the liberal Democrats here always find the resources to treat the symptoms, but they never manage to find the courage to cure the disease. I'm telling you, Trey. So, I'm just saying, like, I'm sorry if I don't join in the overwhelming jubilation at this historic moment, because unfortunately, history in our city, the Emerald City, has proven time and again that these momentous milestones continue to pass over the Black community in Seattle. And not only do things not change for us, they actually worsen. So while others celebrate, we Black folk are still here looking forward to a ginormous income gap, a rapid decline in Black home ownership and generational wealth, and a school system that's failing our children, 100%. So, I mean, Trey, I say to all the elected officials who we see out there celebrating on their social media, you know, dancing and everything on their social media about projected Biden victory, all these local lawmakers here in Seattle, King County, in the state of Washington, y'all need to ask yourselves, what's your legacy going to be as a lawmaker and as a Democrat? Will you just be another one who wants the decline of Black people and culture in the Emerald City on your watch while you praise the virtues of liberalism? Man, I mean, after watching that, I feel like we switched roles here. You the one who usually got the rant. I'm like, well, ladies and gentlemen.
Yo, you went in right there. And I feel like, didn't you ask the mayor that question directly the other day?
I did ask the mayor that question.
I've seen that clip, and she gave you that politician answer. I think that for me, when I look at the Democratic Party, I just don't really feel like it's the party for us. I think if you go back to the 60s and you're talking about the Kennedys, then sure, you can maybe make the argument that that's the party for us. But I think that what really hurts our community sometimes is that we have this perception of political polarization that doesn't really exist. It's not like we have the GOP over here and they're on the right and they're conservative, and then you have Democrats over here and they're on the left and they're liberal. That's not really true. Democrats are really a lot more centrist than they would want us to believe. Like, you hear Mayor Durkin speak and then you hear Nikita Oliver speak. They're not really aligned. They're not aligned politically in that way. So I just think that, you know, we put all of our eggs in this Democratic basket because the Democrats are not overtly racist. They don't appear like they just want to do intentional harm to our communities. But the truth is, Democrats and Republicans are not opposite. Like, they're not. It's not like one of them is for us and one of them is against us.
Right. Well, you know what's interesting here about Seattle is the rest of America thinks that Mayor Durkin is like the most far leftist liberal politician that there is. I mean, it's true. If you talk to like even other mayors across the country and things like that, they're like, man, Mayor Durkin is so far left. But then you'll talk to people here in Seattle. I mean, people put her in the category of like a right-wing Republican. I don't know. It's probably got to be a difficult identity crisis thing down there in City Hall, because it's like, you know, which one is which?
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, one of the points you were just making before, where you talked about, will things be different here with Joe Biden being elected? And to be honest, I'm kind of glad, because now on a local level, we can get back to focusing on local issues. I remember when Mayor Durkin kept coming on cameras and talking about George Floyd and talking about how she stood with the people and this and that, when we were like 2 weeks removed from that young brother being killed in Queen Anne. And she never said anything about that on camera. Like, there's a lot of stuff that happens here that needs to be addressed, and having all of that national stuff happen kind of allowed the mayor to kind of wiggle out of having to have some of these conversations. So now that we can kind of take a step away, hopefully now we can kind of nail her down. But that mayor knows how to maneuver.
Well, I mean, the city council got the $100 million now, so this might just be done. It might be done with all the conversations. All right, look, let's take it back here to the national scene. You know, we got all day long to talk about what's going on locally. This was just a late news report from I think this was CBS, just talking about what's going on in Washington, D.C.
Now to the latest on the presidential race. A number of Republicans are starting to sound the alarm on the Trump administration's refusal to give President-elect Joe Biden national security briefings. We have two reports. We're going to start with NBC's Kristen Welker. And Kristen, Republicans publicly seem to be in lockstep with the president, but are we starting to see a few cracks in that?
We are, Hoda. We're starting to see a growing number of Republicans, cracks, if you will, break with President Trump and making it clear they believe the results of this election are final. The latest, Karl Rove writing in a Wall Street Journal op-ed about the president's threats of legal action and claims of fraud. Quote, the president's efforts are unlikely to move a single state from Mr. Biden's column, and certainly they're not enough to change the final outcome. Now, the other flashpoint, the fact that the Trump administration is withholding key transition funds from President-elect Biden and also intelligence briefings. Overnight, the Republican senator from Oklahoma, James Lankford, saying he will intervene if necessary. Take a listen.
There's nothing wrong with Vice President Biden getting the briefings to be able to prepare himself and so that he can be ready. And if that's not occurring by Friday, I will step in as well and to be able to push and to say this needs to occur.
And we've also learned that even though President-elect Biden has spoken to 8 foreign leaders, including 3 overnight, the State Department is withholding some messages from foreign officials from the president-elect. So that is getting a lot of attention. But Biden is moving forward with his transition. In fact, late yesterday, naming his chief of staff, tapping a longtime aide and ally, Ron Klain, someone who actually served as his chief of staff when he was in the Obama administration. Hoda.
And Kristen, do you have any reporting on what the Trump administration's next move may be or what their best path is forward?
Well, Hoda, I can tell you about some of the conversations going on behind the scenes. We know that some of the president's own advisors believe that this situation is not tenable and it's not sustainable. So they are urging him to find an off-ramp. What is that going to look like? Well, they believe it is unlikely that he will ever concede, but you may see the president come out at some point and say, look, while we can't trust these final results, we're also not going to try to contest them. So I think you're going to see pressure mounting on him to make that statement sooner rather than later, because you have a lot of Republicans inside and outside of the White House who worry that the president is hurting his own legacy and also hurting the Republican Party at a critical moment. Remember, there are those 2 runoff races in Georgia.
Yo, I think the coldest thing, I see you smiling back there, too. I think the coldest thing was they was like, yo, man, Joe Biden got mail over here at the State Department. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, the Chancellor Merkel of Germany sent like a letter to the State Department, but they ain't delivered his mail to him.
It feels good to be able to laugh at these things, because a couple of months ago, things like this was just scary. Now that we're in this transition period, I feel more comfortable laughing. When I see this, yo, this is white supremacy at its finest. Like, this white supremacy is because he's literally just throwing a temper tantrum. Like, the president of our country is throwing a temper tantrum about losing. He's refusing to leave. He won't concede. He got frivolous lawsuits everywhere. Everybody knows that it's going nowhere, and yet they have to entertain it. Obama couldn't even wear the wrong color suit without CNN going crazy, everybody writing articles and all of this stuff. But Trump is allowed to do this, and they entertain it because he's a white guy, and you can't just step in and tell him what to do. So here we are.
All right. Well, not everybody is entertaining the message. This was Neil Cavuto earlier. Kayleigh McEnany was addressing the country at a press conference and insinuated that the Democratic Party was all about the fraud, and Fox News cut away from her.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kayleigh McEnany here today in my personal capacity as an advisor to the campaign. This election is not over. Far from it.
Kayleigh McEnany right now spelling out the Republican National Committee's plan to fight what's been going on in some states, notably Pennsylvania, with the vote count. Let's listen in.
We want every legal vote to be counted, and we want every illegal vote to be...
I just think we have to be very clear. She's charging, the other side is welcoming fraud and welcoming illegal voting. Unless she has more details to back that up, I can't in good countenance continue showing you this. I want to make sure that maybe they do have something to back that up. But that's an explosive charge to make, that the other side is effectively rigging and cheating. If she does bring proof of that, of course, we'll take you back.
All right. And so,
Finally,
that's the message. But do you know? So what I did though is I reached out to quite a few people that I know, Trump supporters, some just everyday Trump supporters, some politicians. And so over the weekend, I just had a lot of different conversations being like, yo, where exactly is a lot of this coming from, right? And so what they were saying is that in 30 states across the country, there's a software program named Dominion that does the vote counting and tabulating or whatever. They said that in those states where they were in dispute, the last 6-7 states, all those states where they stopped voting, the Dominion people came and did a software update on the computer. And what that software update did is it tabulated the votes as for Biden, but then like all the rest of the ballot remained the same. And so that's what they're saying is that on a major scale, I'm sure I'm probably not explaining it in as much detail, but, I spent some time into it because, me, I always just like to understand stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, why do you feel this way? Why do you think this way? And so what they're saying is that the software, like the fix is in across this software that's used to tabulate votes across America. I mean, there's a whole nother discussion about did illegal people vote, did this and that vote. But I mean, those numbers, even no matter what, are minuscule when you talk about the total number of people voting. But they're saying that it was mass fraud through this Dominion software, tabulation software.
I would like to read more about that. I think it honestly would have been great if you could have had one of those Trump supporters on with us. I mean, that's a conversation that I would 100% be open to having. But I mean, from everything that I've seen and everything that I've read, I haven't really seen anything that really amounts to the level of voter fraud that could have actually swung the election. I mean, there's a lot of things in place to stop that from happening. And I would have to have more information before.
Well, I mean, and that's what people are really saying. And, guys are like, well, it's kind of hard to prove computer. Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
but I'm just saying.
I agree with the fact that the computer stuff is tough. That's why I definitely think that mail-in voting is good because it's actually like you're filling out a physical ballot. Like when you go digital, you can always manipulate stuff. So.
Well, no, but this is what I'm saying. So it's not necessarily that what they're saying is no matter what, the ballot is put through a machine and then the machine is telling you the results. So whether you mail it in some states, it's digital, in person, but whether you mail it in like we do here in the state of Washington, they're saying that it goes through a machine. And now that machine, because of this software update, flipped Trump to Biden, but kept the rest of the ballot the same, so it don't look like there was any kind of like fraud. Because if you're going to fraud it, you just would have, in certain states, you just would have flipped everything.
Yeah, so now what you're telling me is that after 4 years of witnessing Trump, you're telling me that now he's smart. Now he has these geniuses on his team that were able to swing this election. I don't know. It's just.
I do know this though. One thing I do know is that it's almost any country in the world is difficult for the party not in power to rig any election. That's one thing. And believe me, I've seen quite a few elections rigged in other countries. You know what I'm saying, in my life, and the opposition usually they don't have the capacity, But anyways, it's a sentiment that's out there. It's a growing sentiment. There's literally millions and millions of Americans who think that this election was illegitimate. And I think that we do ourselves a disservice just to act like those people don't exist. You see what I'm saying? This is a very real thing. You saw that. People went down there to Olympia, to the Capitol. There's hashtag Stop the Steal. You know what I'm saying? People are mobilizing across the country. And so if guys just sit here being like, oh, yeah, whatever, they lost, and not really paying attention to what's going on, we do ourselves a disservice. Millions and millions of people who feel that this election was fraudulent.
No, I agree with that. And there's millions of people that support Trump. So I'm not discounting
70 million.
Wow. So I just would need to see the evidence, and I would need to read it for myself because I haven't. So I just can't.
No, I hear you. And that's what everybody's saying. That's the big thing is like, where's the proof? Where's the evidence?
I think Trump did himself a disservice when he told us months ago that he wasn't going to leave. You know what I mean? Like, he already told it. Like, everything that he's doing right now is things that he said that he was going to do. And that's what makes it not look good for him. Yeah. So when I don't believe him, like when he runs a whole campaign based on suppressing votes, he ran a whole campaign literally telling people, don't mail your votes in. Don't trust the mail-in votes. And then as they count votes, we see people that voted in person, he was getting those votes. And then when the mail-in votes get counted, those were votes for Democrats. He set the stage for it to look like that. And now he's trying to use that to make it seem like it doesn't make any sense to him. Well, he shot himself in the foot, honestly. He should have kept his mouth shut. Like, he hurt himself.
All right. Well, down in the state of Georgia, they're going to do an actual hand.
That's what I was going to
recount down in Georgia.
Breaking news and a small victory for President Trump. The Georgia Secretary of State, who is a Republican, says the state will now recount all paper ballots. That, of course, would include mail-in ballots. Did not give a timeline on when that will begin. We anticipate it would take some time. Currently, Joe Biden leads in Georgia by roughly 14,000 votes. Updates on that as we get them. Sammy.
And so what they were saying, though, is it's like, even with a recount, I mean, the percentage change when they do a recount, it'd be very difficult to make up 14,000 plus one vote.
Yeah, I think the reason why I shake my head at that is because whenever I seen images of the folks working in Georgia counting ballots, it was always a room full of black folks. So now you're gonna have a room full of black folks out here counting thousands and thousands of ballots by hand. Thanks a lot for that. You know, so like, ouch. But I mean, I guess you know, we got to play his game, so we'll play. I don't see it swinging back in his favor. And at the end of the day, even if he gets a state, even if he gets 2 states, he still lost. Like, there's a lot of states that will have to flip to equal a Trump win. So, I mean, I just don't know how much time is it worth wasting doing all of this when we're living through a pandemic. Like, we got real life issues in our face that need attention. We got to get this guy out of the news cycle at some point.
Right. And I think that also in Georgia, it's those two seats there. And those senators, and that's why they want to recount as well, because if you win 50% plus one, you've won. Right. And exactly. And so then there wouldn't be a runoff. And then, you know, I guess I would say your favorite president. your favorite president. Did you even vote for Obama? You didn't vote.
Did not. I did, man. Why you gonna put me on the spot like that, though? First of all, first time Obama ran, I was in high school. The second time, I didn't vote because of how I felt about the first time.
Okay, well, here you go. Here's former President Obama chiming in on things.
What are these false claims of widespread election fraud doing to our country right now?
They appear to be motivated in part because the president doesn't like to lose and never admits loss. I'm more troubled by the fact that other Republican officials who clearly know better are going along with this, are humoring him in this fashion. It is one more step in delegitimizing not just the incoming Biden administration, but democracy generally. And that's a dangerous path.
So I know you always like to hear from him. Did that make you feel better?
Not really, but I mean, I'm not an Obama hater. I just don't love him in the way that a lot of people do. I mean, I read his book. I get how he grew up. He kicks it in accordance to that. I don't trust Ivy League guys anyway. But you know, I just would say he got to stand up for his boy. So he's gonna stand up for his boy, man. You know what I'm saying? He ain't gonna stand up for me. Let the police run in here right now and shoot me. You think Obama's good? Please. Or maybe now that he's not in office, now he's allowed to say stuff in our favor. But man, why do you take me here, man? Why you gotta take me to these places?
I mean, I'd be waiting for Julia to take you there. I'm not sure what happened with her. Okay, so listen, we go to assuming that everything goes eventually the way that it looks like it's gonna go, and Biden is in office. So Biden is there in office. But then you got this divide in between the progressives and the centrists. So I found this clip here from the BBC. It's about 3.5 minutes. So, don't go change the channel. I know you might go make a sandwich or something, but this is breaking down. And I always like to look at stuff from like the BBC and foreign broadcasters because they give a whole different kind of perspective than national broadcasters. So this is this reporter here from the BBC who's talking about the progressives basically versus the centrists.
The celebration may have stopped for Democrats in Washington, but there's still that warm glow of victory. The Democratic Party went into this election more united than they've been for a very long time, but they didn't come out that way. The battle they were united on was beating Donald Trump. Now that one is won, other battles have begun.
The expectations were set so high that anything below that blue tidal wave was going to cause some frustration. There's no doubt about that. And that's what you saw on the caucus call over the weekend.
These will get torn apart in 2022.
The call involving much of the Congressional Democratic Party was explosive and widely leaked. Abigail Spanberger is a centrist Democrat. She only just held on to her district in Virginia, blaming the left of the party for scaring her voters.
And we need to not ever use the word socialist or socialism ever again. Because while people think it doesn't matter, it does matter. And we lost good members because of that.
Ellen Patera, her husband Rob and mother Vibeke are centrist Democrats. They voted for Joe Biden because they want a moderate.
I'm hoping Biden is at the center. That's what I'm counting on.
I want to be able to sit down with my Republican friends and my Democratic friends and have a conversation. And I feel like we've lost that in the last 4 years. And I hope that Biden's able to bring our whole country back into conversation with each other.
You've got to compromise. You can't always get your way. The Democrats are going to have some good ideas. The Republicans are going to have some good ideas. But what's really important is that they can agree on what needs to get done and then compromise and figure out, the best way to do that.
Joe Biden sold himself to his party as a deal maker, someone who in his long career has got on with everyone. This could be important since it's likely the Republicans led by Mitch McConnell will still control the Senate.
Joe Biden will be pushing for whatever he can get done within the context of the Congress he will be dealing with. If progressives don't understand, we didn't win the Senate back yet, right? And we still might. But if we don't, David, you can't ram through a bunch of stuff when they're in the majority. That's the reality of a democracy. That's the reality of getting things done in Washington, D.C.
But many progressives who marched this summer shy away from the horse trading of the past. They believe Joe Biden can pursue a radical agenda if he's prepared to take his case to the people. They want him, for example, to appoint people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren to his cabinet, even if the Republicans refuse to confirm their appointments. Zach Exley helped run Bernie Sanders' 2016 presidential campaign.
If he spells out what his vision is and explains why he needs people like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, I think those people will get confirmed. And he shouldn't just give up if the Republicans say no. What he should do is he should start going around the country and campaigning like crazy, whether he does it from his, from the basement of the White House on Zoom, or whether he actually goes around and starts doing rallies again. He needs to fight for it.
The coalition that Joe Biden and his party put together at this election was impressively broad. It included rural voters like Ellen Patera and her family, as well as those in the cities. Keeping them all corralled together and happy once the governing starts, well, that's going to take some wrangling.
All right, it's going to take some wrangling. So Mike Davis, my friend, the progressive versus the centrist divide. What are your thoughts? Also, so we got people, lots of comments coming in. We want to get your thoughts. This is something really comment on because of other stuff, my friend. but especially here in Seattle, this is a real, hot button topic, is the progressive versus the centrist divide in the Democratic Party.
Well, yeah, I think this is one of the points that I made earlier when I said that, we try to polarize our politics as if we have one side that's way on the left and one side that's way on the right, when the Democrats want to be centrist. I think that's clear. I think it was clear in 2016 when they put Hillary instead of Bernie. And I think it's clear now when they put Joe Biden instead of Bernie. This is who the Democratic Party wants to be. They don't want to be super left. They don't want to be super liberal. It's not who they are. When you listen to them speak, I remember Joe Biden and Kamala Harris put out that statement about rioters like a couple weeks ago, and it's just like, they're not with us. If you're marching in the street, if you're protesting, if you're really out here, you want to defund the police, and they're not for you. It's not what they're going to do for you. So, I mean, this is why I didn't support Joe Biden. This is why when we were having all of those talks earlier, when, I'm not for Trump for sure, but I also wasn't for Joe Biden because I didn't feel like either one of them really represented my interests. Now, I think Joe Biden is a better politician. I think that he's better to handle situations like the coronavirus better. But do I think that he's really going to get out there, get his hands dirty and do stuff for the community? Absolutely not. So this is where we are. And as you can see in that video, those are the people that he plays to. That's his real constituency. Not me, not you, them.
So yeah. Well, I would say this is that the party never stopped being the party. Like you said, it's like the messaging as to who people elected through this through the primaries and everything else, the candidate, and it isn't like the Democratic Party stepped out. It was like, oh yeah, we're with you, super progressives or left of the party. People just knew. I mean, here's the thing is right. It's like kind of simplified. It's a word. You're the writer, so you would know. The Republicans, speaking generally, right? Man, the Republicans don't really have a lot of people that they got to really look out for. You see what I'm saying? You got the religious and societal conservatives. You've got policy conservatives. Then you got people who are all about their bread. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, if you got the religious conservatives, people who are socially conservative and people who are about stacking up. If you make them happy, man, it's for the most part, you're good. So the Republicans got it good like that. They got to look out for like 3, 4, you're solid. The Democrats have always said we're the big tent party. Well, man, there's hella people in the tent. You see what I'm saying? And so they get victories by being like, hey, we're in the big tent. But then when it comes time for it, it's like, okay, man, you've got blacks, you've got Latino, you've got natives, you got unions, you got this, you got that, and you got the Democrats got so many people in the tent, man. I mean, usually black people, we be at the front to get people elected, and then we go back to the back of the line of the tent. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So everybody else gets something, right? And so, but what I'm saying is like, I never saw the Democratic Party in their messaging this whole time really say, hey, progressives, we're here for you. I think it was more like progressives being like, man, listen, we're going to do what we got to do to get Trump out of office. So it was like, I mean, you heard AOC was just kind of like chill. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of times she just wanted to go off in interviews and everything, and she just kind of bit her tongue and was like, hey, we're going to deal with this and that. But now it's really going to come down to the progressives who are like, man, we pushed this victory, versus the centrists who are like, well, we're just trying to get stuff done.
No, that's very true. And I think that that's also part of the reason why I'm not inclined to believe the Republicans who are trying to claim all of this voter fraud. I think that the reason why Republicans wanted to suppress all of the votes is because they knew the least amount of people that voted, the higher chance that Trump had to win. But because you got the Democrats and they have that big umbrella and they have that wider reach, the more people that voted, the higher chance that Biden was going to have to win. So when we look at the amount of votes and the fact that more people voted this time than any election in history, I think that it was going to be clear that Biden was going to win, and this is what the Republicans didn't want. And I do think you're right about the party being too large to really answer for everybody. And man, we need our own party, man. That's really what it is. We need the Black party. We need the poor people's party. We need the marginalized party, because like they don't really. There's nobody that speaks for us.
Yeah, that don't look good on T-shirt though. Marginalized party. You gotta come with something, got some swag.
We need slogan, man. We need Julia, man. You know what I'm saying? I have a slogan.
You know whatchamacallit, Diddy was talking about launching Our Black Party. That's the name of it, like our Black Party. I mean, so the thing is Black people, well, I guess in certain states, in certain areas though, it is are able to really push the bottom line. But it's like Black people have continuously voted party instead of issues. And, you know, and that's what we find. So a lot of times we actually vote against our best interest because of the way that we vote. And then other people, man, they're voting the issue. What's this issue that's most important to me? You know what I'm saying? And so we kind of get jammed up in that. Who is going to come out on top on this though? The progressives or the centrists?
Oh, the centrists. Are you kidding me? They already did. We got Mr. Law and Order and a lawyer. Like, that's the same thing about Durkin. Like, I don't know how anybody would ever assume that she was going to be super progressive, and she had a career as a federal attorney. They're not progressive. She's locking people up. So no, I don't think progressives are going to win. I think we lost. Now, at the same time, we had to get Trump out of there. So if you're like me and you went out there to go specifically vote against Trump, then that's a win. But I definitely wasn't outside shooting off fireworks and banging pans in the streets.
You weren't dancing on your social media.
It's not a celebration. It's a win, but it's not a celebration. But to answer your question, Biden will be centrist. I seen the list of like the cabinet that he was looking at right now. And I'm looking at.
They said Jay might go. Excuse me, Governor Inslee. I know my mama watching. Governor. They said Governor Inslee. We might lose a few people. We might lose Mayor Durkin. We might lose Governor Inslee.
Let him go. Who's next? Who's stepping up? Who we gonna bring out there?
You know. It looks like Julia's there. Well, you know, the thing is if you do the way that it works, and if I'm wrong, somebody get me in the comments here. But the way that it works is if the mayor leaves, resigns, removed, whatever, then the president of the city council becomes mayor until the next election. So that would mean that Council President Gonzalez will become the mayor until, you know, a special election or anything like that. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is, Julia Jessie. What's up, Jules?
Right. How you doing?
What are you boys in here talking about?
Man, we just kicking it.
Yeah, we just kicking it. You know, Mike Davis is here, so long hair don't care.
You know, it's one of those guys. Somebody in the chat too said something about Stacey Abrams. Yo, what's up, Joe? Can she get a job? She don't get a job. She didn't get no phone call for everything that she just did for the. See, man.
So hold on. Before let's I'm gonna put Stacey Abrams. We're gonna talk about it. But Julia's here, so we're gonna do what's called our rewind here. You weren't here at the top of the hour, Julia. So we're gonna play these short clips here again, and because people be logging, people be hitting me. I got some messages. Where's Julia? This is horrible TV. I'm tuning out. Julia ain't there. So first, this was Vice President-elect Biden on not election day, whenever he made his speech. Here you go.
Okay.
I mean it, especially those moments, and especially those moments where this campaign was at its lowest ebb. The African-American community stood up again for me. You've always had my back, and I'll have yours.
Julia. Joe Biden said the African-American community has always had his back, and now he's got yours. What are your thoughts?
Does he have mine? I'm gonna be holding his back if he doesn't do what he needs to do for Black people coming forward. But you know what? I'm really excited and inspired by this new president-elect and vice president-elect. And I plan to hold them accountable for the things that they campaigned on. So we shall see what happens. But Joe Biden doesn't just get the Black vote because Black people voted for him. So we'll see what happens.
See, and there goes Joe Biden texting you right now. Julia, I got your back. Yeah. Tell them to send the mail, man. All right. And so second clip here. We talked about this, the first Black female vice president, Kamala Harris. And this is what she had to say right here. Want to hear your thoughts?
Women who fought and sacrificed so much for equality and liberty and justice for all, including the Black women who are too often overlooked, but so often prove they are the backbone of our democracy.
Julia, the backbone of our democracy?
Absolutely. Okay, so first of all, shout out Black Girl Magic. Kamala Harris is also Black and Indian. My niece, my sister-in-law is Indian from Fiji. Her family is from Fiji, and my little niece speaks Hindi. So I see my little niece through the lens of Kamala Harris, and I just feel like so empowered. So she went to Howard. She's a Bison. She is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Shout out to those illustrious women there. And listen.
Man, this is like a coming to America. Just let your soul glow. Look at you. You still got the soul glow right now, huh, Julia?
It's a beautiful thing to see. It really is a beautiful thing to see. And I think, I think about my career in corporate America and the things that I had to do or sacrifice to kind of get there. Some of the challenges and hurdles that I had to face. And I think about, okay, what did Kamala have to do? What type of decisions did she have to make? What type of things that she have to let go by to make it to this point? She is the vice president of the United States of America. A Black woman who went to Howard is the vice president of the United States of America. Finally, right? And I went to a HBCU. Shout out to that. And when I was living in Seattle, my high school teacher told me to not go to HBCU because he said I was better than that. And so, quiet down.
Was that 3 snaps in a circle?
So I'm inspired. I'm motivated by this new energy that we have. I think a lot of people are kind of like, but I feel bad for Donald Trump. Is that crazy? We
gotta zoom in for this one.
Yeah, for real.
I have survivor's guilt, you guys. Here's why I feel bad. He is just such a sore loser. Oh God, he's a sore loser. He won't concede to the election. He's just battling it at all fronts. I've been following him on Instagram and Twitter, just trying to see everything he's gonna say. I'm watching his kids on Instagram and Twitter, and they are just melting at the seams. And Trumpy. Sorry, boo. You're out. Oh, not only are you out, but you got booted out. Like, you got put out. But you know what? Shout out to Donald Trump and his campaign. They ran one hell of a campaign. Those margins were very tight. One thing that we can say about this election is that it was very close. So shout out to
what does that close election say about our country? We're just still hella divided, huh?
That was the most the biggest thing that we should all take out of this is that America is 100% divided, almost 50-50. So
you see how Doris, it's even covering your face. You see how the graphic got you covered up?
I really feel sorry for him, but I just feel sorry for everyone who's losing their job, right? Because I do work for an elected official too, so I know how it is when there's a transfer in office, you lose your job, you're out. But you know what? It is this was a close race, and we didn't have a winner until Saturday, and we don't technically have a winner until all the ballots are I think certified. So we're waiting for that certification to stamp. This is the same thing that happened when Hillary Clinton did a recount too. So they're kind of making it, the media is kind of making it seem like this isn't typical business as usual. It's always a recount. So I'm not surprised by this. I'm not shocked by this. I think I'm most interested to know, had the vaccine came out before the election, would that have changed some minds? So Democrats got super lucky because that 90% effective rate from Pfizer.
Man, but hold on. So okay, and I hear you on that. That might have been a momentum boost, but do you think that the people who voted for Biden and against Trump would have trusted that vaccine if it came out before?
We're not talking about those. We're talking about the people who were undecided.
Oh,
The people that were on the fence and was just like, well.
Yeah, he would have claimed it like he made it himself.
If that vaccine hits, I'm all in, huh?
He kept saying a vaccine is about to come out. It's about to come out. It's about to come out. So the administration was like, no, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. And then boom, it came out. I was like, damn, that thing really came out. It came out.
So they're saying though, popular vote wasn't that close.
The popular vote doesn't count.
That's not what matters, though.
Unfortunately, the popular vote does not count, and it
all Hillary Clinton about that.
Mm-hmm. So okay, so I got two questions for you, Julia.
Okay.
You're a pragmatic person for the most part. What's the date on the calendar when this honeymoon that you have is ended? If you don't see progress, I mean, because this is dope. You got all the right reasons why you feeling this soul glow right now. Okay. You know what I'm saying? You even explained this touching story. His family members, you see this, and I went to a HBCU too. And everybody used to people telling you that, oh, that's a substandard university. It's this and that. So that's a big shot in the arm for all 117 HBCUs across the country. I feel that glow. But you're a pragmatic person, and ultimately, man, something's got to give. So how long are you giving this administration here for you to feel this change that you're hoping that they deliver?
They better deliver. They better have a strong first 100 days in office. They got a strong 100 days. I'm gonna give them a good 100 days to not be transformative, but I want to see them really initiate some of the things that they campaign on. One thing that we can say, and it's going to be tough, right? Because if Dems don't have the House and the Senate, we're going to be, how many things that can you get through? But I want to see some executive orders. I want to see some stuff pushed. I want to see some legislation come out. I want to see some new policies. I want to hear all about implementation of the healthcare plan. I want to see some things done in the first 100 days. And we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to lose the magic, right? Because we have them for 4 years, no matter what. So it's not like it's, I'm just going to blow out the candle. But in the first 100 days, we need to see a hard push. And I feel like all of the American people need to get behind it. And really say, no, you need to earn your right to be here. So we're gonna give them a cool 100.
The cool 100. Okay, well that's what Mike Davis is 100 days fair.
100 days is fair. Come out the box. Come out swinging.
Yeah.
Cancel that student loan debt. How about that? Do that off top. But we'll see. I just I love Julia's energy right now. I love how she's feeling. I wish I could be there. I think my daughter's there though, seeing Kamala Harris up there, that really did mean something. I'll give her that, but I'm just too jaded, man. I remember Trayvon Martin and Obama getting up there talking about trust the process and the courts is going to work this out for us as Zimmerman walked free. So like, it's hard for me to just, give it all up before they actually do anything for the people.
Yeah. I mean, so Julia, I played some classic morning show footage here from our archives from Monday, and where I uncharacteristically went on a rant. And part of my rant, though, is that here in the city of Seattle, Democrats have been in City Hall for 30 years. And when Governor Inslee, who's up by 600,000 votes at the moment, his term, by the time the governor's term ends, Democrats would have been in the State House for 40 years. and it's been constant decline. The Democrats they've overseen the decline of Black people in this city. From gentrification in the Central District, weed seed, these up housing taxing measures is taxing all of our elders out of their homes. All these policies they weaponize against us, and and this was something I brought up in this rant. And I also posed this question to our Mayor Durkin, the other day: is that these guys here, the Democrats here, they always come up with enough money to try to treat the symptoms, but they never find the courage to cure the disease. So I say all that to say this. We had a conversation earlier about how will this Biden Harris victory help us on the street level? We know Trump, it didn't really help us on the street level. Neither did Obama. And so I'm just wondering, this is good on the national scene. It's good. President Obama was transformational just in optics alone. It's a lot of people could think bigger and dream bigger and everything else. But you know what? The Central District stayed in decline the whole time he was there. So I'm saying is, do you really see street level change? You're there in Washington, D.C. You're there in this world. Do you see things getting better on the street level now that they're in office? Mm-hmm. Take more than them 100 days, huh?
It's going to take more than a president and a vice president to do such. I think it depends on who's in there. The quick and the short is, I don't think it's going to happen in the first 4 years. I think we're going to need, because things don't happen overnight. It's not going to, it takes more than just elected officials. What it's going to take is a grassroots effort from people really holding their members accountable, right? And us not keeping and not letting up off the gas, right? So we had our foot on the gas to get out and vote, get out and vote, get out and vote. Now it's make this happen, make this happen, make this happen. Pass this, do this. And really the people have the power and the energy to make change. And we have social media. So we don't even have to leave the comforts of our iPhones to get out here and tweet, communicate, hashtag, and make things go viral, which we have seen has been transformative. So,
right. Well, let me just jump in here real quick. So a few things. So Angel Bender, the reason why I bring this up, right, and I bring up Biden getting elected and local Democrats here is because Mike could tell you all our local politicians were dancing on social media like, hey, life is good. And us Black folks are sitting here being like, man, and you know what? You get what I'm saying? And so it's like, we see them all there and this and that. And these are the same people that have looked us in our eyes decade after decade after decade and not delivered. But then they're dancing around. And so you kind of sit here, somebody from the Central District being like, oh, word? Oh, okay, now what? Is this a distraction now? You see what I'm saying? So that's really the point that I'm getting at. I understand that like DC, and how it relates down to the street level. But it's like, on a real deal, our local politicians are acting like everything's going to be all great now. We like, nah, you've been leaving us behind. Well, and then and let me just one more here. And Kimberly, Barbara Woodruff, Omari, all things being relative, are you suggesting Republicans would do better? Or are you aiming at how to make Dems get their SH stuff together or someone else will entirely step in? I'm saying that like these guys have just been full of crap. You know what I'm saying? The opposing party here could be libertarian. It could be whatever. All I know is the party in power and the party that has all this affinity around Black people and everything else has failed us decade after decade after decade. I'm not saying that the Republicans are any better, but, the people who've been in power been letting us down. I'm sorry. There you go, Jay.
I've seen some statistics about Seattle, and there's only like 55,000 Black people.
Yeah, because we've been driven out. Right. How you gonna afford to live here?
I know. So, and that's what I'm saying. They don't have to pander to Black people because they don't need the Black vote in Seattle. So it doesn't, they can be gentrifiers. They can do, I'm not saying that it's okay. Obviously, I grew up in the South End. So Holly Park is not Holly Park like I used to know it. I don't even recognize Rainier Avenue when I roll down it. I don't recognize Seattle at all when I come home. So they don't have to target that population. Should people hold them accountable? Absolutely. People like you who stay, actually in the city. All my friends don't even live in Seattle no more. Everyone is on the outskirts because they can't afford it. Yes, King County is the new Seattle. Yeah, it really is.
I'm live in Auburn right now.
Right, live in Auburn.
Live in Auburn right now.
Really? You got Auburn?
Hey,
Bro, I couldn't afford no property in Seattle, man.
But what you really are the South Seattle Emerald.
The southest of Seattle you can get. Hey, but I think that it hits on your point, and I don't mean to like keep taking it so local, but I really think that this is what we're seeing with our mayor. Our mayor she doesn't really give a damn what the protesters is talking about in the streets. I don't think that that's who she is counting on to vote for her. I think she's counting on her neighbors. And we've seen through the protests what her neighborhood looks like. Yeah. Those are the folks that she's trying to get to vote for her. She probably don't even believe that these protesters live in Seattle.
To vote for her, who donates to her campaign, who
absolutely
to her constituency,
it's not us.
Who comes and lobbies at her office about things. If you don't have any Black voices coming in to testify to say these schools are bad, we can't afford this, we can't afford that, and we're all living in Auburn. And we're not even just gonna say Black, Latinos. There's a huge
poor people for sure are just getting pushed out. Poor people in general.
Poor people are getting pushed out just in general. In Washington, D.C., it's a little bit different because we are still essentially chocolate city, right?
Hey.
So so all hands are doing all that. That's why I moved to the East Coast. But realistically, I left Seattle because I wanted to get a Black experience. Like, I was like, it's too many white folks, and I'm trying to live my best life and get some Black girl magic. And it was the first time in my life that I ever had a Black teacher. That I remember walking. I had such a culture shock when I moved to Virginia and went to Norfolk State. And I was like, Ma, all my teachers are Black. When I go in the grocery store, everybody is Black. I'm like, everybody's Black.
You must have been on Monticello and Brambleton, huh?
You know about that? What you know about Monticello and Brambleton?
Norfolk State.
You know what? Oh, I got my eye on you. I got my eye on you. You. That's why you're the global citizen, because you definitely know.
For sure. All gets around.
Yeah, you got all gets around.
In the best way, Mom. But what I'm saying though, and we'll move off the local point here. I'm just saying that like the vibe here, and probably like lots of America, is like all of our ills are going to be, solved now. Trump's out of office. And the point that I be trying to drive home is it ain't the Trump administration that, or even the Obama administration that created policies and things that have worked against the Black community. It's the people who've been in power for decades here in Seattle and the state of Washington that have weaponized policies against us. And that's the larger point that like, man. And so for me, when I do interviews, people call me, they're like, hey, Omari, Biden, Harris, they're in there. And I'm like, man, let's keep an eye on the Central District. Let's keep an eye on the South Bend. Let's keep an eye on Skyway. And then you'll let me know if that election there actually changes, or if our politicians here, I think I wrote an article and I was like, as local Democrats celebrate Biden victory, will they continue to ignore the Black community? So let's let people celebrate and pop their bottles and everything else. But what are you going to do?
Yeah. Oh, and I think the resounding kind of response that I hear from, people in my kind of peer circle is that, oh no, we plan to hold them accountable. And what does that look like, right? And I think what we need to do is really come up with a system that's like, how do we reach out to our legislators? How do we reach out to our president, vice president, these people in their cabinets and their administration? How do we say, yes, I like this. Yes, I don't like this. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. Like, we got to be more in touch. And I think there needs to be some type of system in place. And it needs to be done by social media. In the same way that we build movements like the Black Lives Matter movement, we need to build these movements for people to be engaged. And a lot of people are not engaged. They fake like they're engaged and they read a headline and that's it.
What?
It's like, no, that's not, you need to take the next step. I mean, how often do you get up and testify? I testify at my city council. And
Let the church say amen.
I know that you test her.
Yo, I'm a voter now.
Well,
Yeah.
so here we go. Now, speaking of staying engaged, our viewers tonight are staying engaged, and they're like, yeah. You guys are talking all this, but let's go back to where we started.
Okay.
That's what we were talking about when you jumped on. Stacey Abrams. We'll start with you, Julia.
Stacey Abrams is the real MVP. She is the GOAT. Let me tell you something. If Stacey Abrams went through the trenches of Georgia, all those little rural towns, and galvanized all these people, that is the only reason the Democrats got Georgia, is because of her hard work. Her and her team went in the trenches. They went to all those little tiny towns and spoke to all those people to say, this is what needs to happen and this is how it needs to happen. She's the GOAT. She's the real MVP. I'm interested to see what Stacey Abrams wants to do. Like, does she want to work in the White House? Does she want to like run for governor? Like, what does she want to do? Stacey Abrams, you know, she's a very interesting kind of person. I've watched several interviews with her. She's not your typical like Black woman. Like, that sounds crazy. She's not how I am, like Black girl magic and woo woo woo. Like, she, you know, she'll get on Essence and have those like conversations, but she's such an intellectual. Like, she's just on a whole nother level that I'm not on yet. So I'm interested to see what she wants to do, because the world is her oyster, and I'm a big fan.
Mike Davis, Stacey Abrams.
I echo most of what Julia said. I never would have thought that Georgia would have got flipped. Like, that's crazy. She made that happen. Now, what I want to see is that Joe Biden phone call. I want him to call her. And don't just thank her, man. Black folks, man, we're tired of these empty thank yous, these pat. We don't want no pats on the back. Hire her. She should have a job, man. She should be working for you right now. Like, we don't need no empty thanks, none of that. She should be working for his campaign. That's all I got to say about that.
Please, I don't think she should be working for the campaign. Stacey Abrams is a boss. Well,
she said I read today that she said that she plans to run again for governor, but until then, she should have a job. Like,
no, they should be figuring out how to infuse capital so that she can win. She don't need to work for nobody. She is a boss hog. Like, she don't need to do nothing.
She got to do something until the next election. She still got to eat. Julia, what's she going?
Election is like 2 years. You got to be running for it.
Like, she can't work for 2 years and then go run again.
Listen, Stacey is an influencer right now. You don't think they calling her like, hey, Stacey, woo, woo, woo. She is in a leadership position all of her own. I mean, she's an innovator, one that we haven't seen. I agree that, I've heard on CNN and MSNBC, like, a lot of people giving her kudos. I would love to see her honored for the hard work that she has put in, because without her, this election would not have been the same. From her hard work, her leadership, her strategy and implementation. Someone in the comments says she's a rock star. She absolutely is. I encourage everyone to go on YouTube and just put in Stacey Abrams and listen to some of her interviews. She is just, she's not what you typically see in leadership, but she's hella smart. And, I watched her have a conversation with Oprah, and I was like, man, this girl she's just so different than what I thought she would be. And she was just kind of like, just the way like she responds to stuff. She's just someone you really want to learn from. She's introverted. Is she? I didn't really get that she's introverted. I don't think you can run for public office and be introverted, but maybe you can. I don't know. But
no, there's a lot of people that run for public office that are introverted, but you just don't really see them in the sexy positions like mayor. There's some people that, I'm county auditor or something like this and that. There's a lot of those guys are like, listen, man, I'm just good with the numbers. Elect me. Hey, if you don't want the auditor dancing all in your videos.
That's true. So I'll eat that.
I would like to see Biden's campaign reach out and hire people like her and put them in a position to actually push him towards change? Because we always talk about, oh, we got to push him. We got to push him. Why do we have to push him from the outside? If he really wants to be pushed, if he's really down with the people, then you should invite her on the inside.
That's one of the realest joints that I done heard. And you say a lot of real stuff, Mike. One of the realest things I've heard is you're like, man, why you got to push people if that's where their heart is really already at? You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, like black people, man, we always having to push. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. And now speaking of pushing, and this was a conversation we're going to circle back around to, Julia, was progressives versus centrists. We won't play. We had a clip we played from the BBC, and got the BBC. I like to get stuff from other countries. You know, me and Julia, actually, we used to work together. We worked together over in Tanzania and Kenya. We worked with Heineken and Coca-Cola a career ago. And so, you know, it's always different. Actually, we used to watch the BBC and Sky News over there, and it was interesting to see how. Right, yeah, that's all we had over there, and you'd watch how, you know, the foreigners covered America. So, anyways, though, in this BBC clip, they said, hey, you know, there's lots of centrist, moderate Democrats. They're like, hey, man, Joe Biden's cool. You know what I'm saying? He knows how to make a deal. Some stuff's gonna happen. Don't trip. And then, you know, there's the progressives who are like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? They're lit. They've been in the streets 160, 170 days, and everything else, and they're like, yo, we want our issues. And they're like, yo, you need to appoint, you know, Bernie Sanders. You need to appoint Elizabeth Warren. And so it's a clash. And the thing is, what me and Mike was talking about is before the election, you had people like AOC who they'd be interviewed. They was trying to get it out of her. But, you know, she would just be like, yeah, we're just together. We're wanting, you know, Trump out of office. And, you know, she wanted to be like, yeah, you know, it's going to go down. But now the elections happen. The progressives are like, yo, we want to push our agenda, but you got the other half of the party. It played a clip from a lawmaker there in Virginia, close to you, where she was like, "We can't say the word social or socialism or anything like that because we're gonna scare away our voters." So now on this issue of progressives versus centrists, what are your thoughts?
So first of all, I know Joe Biden ran, and a lot of the news stations were, you know, really coining him to be a moderate. And they were saying that Kamala is a super liberal, right? I think what we will see based on what Kamala said, and this really stuck to me. She said in this, I think it was the 60 Minutes interview that I watched, she said, Joe had asked her, you know what, I want you to be the first person in the room and I want you to be the last person in the room. And based on that, I really feel like there will be some balance, right? I think we'll see a lot of balance in kind of having the progressive agenda being brought forward. And then we'll kind of have Joe being this, you know, traditional, more moderate kind of person to say, maybe we got to give a little to get a little, right? So I think I am anticipating to see some balance. I don't think it's going to be as progressive as we think.
I got to unmute myself. Mike Davis, circling back around to you.
I agree with what Julia said. And I guess it just kind of bothers me, man. And maybe it just goes back to the whole white supremacy thing. Yo, Trump didn't have to give nothing. Like, he didn't have to work with anybody he didn't want to work with. Like, he really just did his thing. How come we can't get somebody on the opposite side that can just come in and do the same? And I think it'll never happen. So I think Joe is who he was supposed to be put in this position.
Yeah,
but I ask a question to Mike? Well, go ahead, because I think you're going to ask him.
Right? No, go ahead. Let her ask.
Go ahead, Julia.
How do you think it would look if Joe kind of came out? Like, Trump has a I don't give a attitude. And one thing you can say about him, he goes hard in
the paint.
He goes so hard for his constituents. I'm not gonna say I'm so glad he's out of there, right? But when I say he went hard, the first 100 days, he was executive ordering everything, press conference, tweeting, going ham. He's doing so much. Do you think Joe Biden should go just as hard?
Well, go ahead, Mike. Well, okay. So let me just say this. What I said earlier is that Trump got the benefit of the Republican Party of what it is right now. You've only really got to please a few people. You got to please the religious right. You got to please cultural conservatives. You got to please physical conservatives, people who want to stack their bread. That's it. Man, if you make those people happy, then like you're all good. So you really can just do whatever you want. So man, you make the religious right happy, you're cool. You make the cultural conservatives happy, you're good. Man, you let the rich get rich, man, you've won. You only got to please 3 people. The Democrats.
In a nutshell, you're right. And yes, I get it. I'm not arguing against that, but
you're like, why not?
All 3 of those that you're describing, white folks. So basically, you want to get in and you want to make white folks happy? Why you think you got all those votes, man? White folks. So what's up? We can't have anybody to play the opposite? Yeah, I would love it for Joe to come in swinging. I would have loved it even more if Obama came out swinging. But we never get anybody that could come out swinging for us the way that a white supremacist could come out swinging for white people. Like, we're just stuck.
So I guess the consensus is that he should come out swinging, Mike.
Yeah, I want to say yes, he should, but I don't think that his views really align with mine. So I don't think that he's not about to just come out here and flip the switch and give us reparations. Like, that's just not the guy that we voted for.
So he should go hard if he goes hard for Black people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, but this is why Mike Davis is a guest on an analyst here on our election shows, because he keeps it real. Yeah. He's just like, yo.
Power to the Mike.
Okay, but for real though, on a really serious note though, you wouldn't appreciate it if Joe Biden could go as hard as Trump, if he could really say he's going to hire the people that he wants to hire. He's going to do, you know how many times during the Trump administration we heard somebody say he can't do that, and then he just went and did it. Like, he always does whatever. Look at the Pentagon right now. Look at the specific people in the Pentagon that Trump is firing right now. He's doing all kind of stuff to this day. We've never had a Democrat walk into the office and do anything like that, and I don't think we ever will.
Yeah, Chandler J. Heyer, I'd love to see Joe come out swinging. That's no Joe, but that's what we need.
That's not. I mean, I'm a little torn because a part of me feels like, yes, he should be thug like Donald Trump and just go ham. But the other part of me feels like we need to normalize our government again and like bring some calm and some peace and some tranquility. And I want him to be a president for all Americans. I don't want him just to be a president for Black people or just for Democrats or progressives or Republicans. I want him to be a president for all people and bring some unity. I want everybody to feel like they have a seat at the table. Is that realistic? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, but we are at a huge divide, and I don't want people who are Donald Trump supporters to feel like how we felt the last 4 years, right?
Here we go.
Years. Oh, go ahead.
I'm saying and by the way, we welcome comments, and definitely we're not the kind of this isn't the kind of show where we like to like roast people or stuff like that. So, welcome comments, and definitely, especially if you disagree with these guys. It said, Kenneth H., have you considered that maybe us conservatives are just easier to please? Basically, leave us alone, don't tax us to death, and we're happy. And, I will tell you this, that's most Americans. You're putting conservative on it, but like us in our neighborhood, the Central District, if people just left us alone, you know what I'm saying? Let us do our thing. Don't put these policies. Well, I mean, don't put these policies that work against us. In the Central District right now, our elders are being taxed out of their home because of the upzoning. So really, although you say the word conservatives, man, it's a lot of people who just feel it that kind of way. Like, yeah, so I hear you. And you know what they told me? I took the exam, everything. They're like, man, you're aligned with libertarian.
Hold on. Put Kimberly's comment on here. Nothing is going to happen.
Okay, here we go.
I'm polite. She's right. Kimberly is right, too. Well, I think Kenneth's comment and also Kimberly's, I'm stuck in between the two of them, right? I heard from a lot of conservative people who were like, I'm voting for Donald Trump because I want the stock market to go good and I don't want to be taxed out the yin yang, right? And that was from, I'm talking about a lot of people who are foreign nationals that that I deal with, a lot of people who make over $400,000 a year.
That's who you roll with, huh?
That's your circle.
Okay.
That's your squad.
That's your
squad.
Some of my clients do have a point, and they got houses in the Hamptons, and they're like, I'm like, oh, your boy Donald Trump didn't win. But they're like, listen, I don't want to be taxed so much. And they work hard. They work really hard. And it's like, yeah, I got a house in the Hamptons and a rental property and a this and that. And I don't want, and they make over $400,000 a year, but they're still essentially like regular people. But yeah, they pay a lot of taxes, and they roll Republican because of that. I feel there's a lot of common. I feel there is a lot in common between our two sides, which is why I'm here to listen. I agree.
What up, Kenneth?
I mean, and the thing is at least on a local sense here, at least in our, like I said, in our community, and a lot of stuff is like, man, people really, in a sense, want a lot of the same things, just called different names. You know what I'm saying? Or the approach of it. You know what I'm saying? Might be different. It says make more money, make more money, pay more. But yeah, so, and also, like, if you're watching and you're tuning in, if you got a different point of view, or a point of view we haven't mentioned here, like, we welcome comments. Like I said before you got on here, Julia, because we were talking about something else that we won't revisit, but that's the election fraud, this and that and everything else. But what I was saying is, what I was telling Mike is that I reached out. It's a lot of people that you would say conservative or right wing. Either they follow me on Twitter, DM this and that, everything else. So I reached out to a lot of them to get their viewpoint. And you know what I'm saying? Some people are like, why do you want to talk to them? Why do you want to? First of all, tens of millions of people in America are probably feeling the same way that these guys do. So it's good. I mean, we do ourselves a disservice not to understand. I tell people on the morning show all the time, we don't always have to agree, but let's make our best effort to try to understand. So it's good to try to understand why people feel this way. Now, whether you agree with them or not, that's something different. But I'm always trying to get an understanding of different people and points of views, and some of everything else. I'll say this on this issue here of progressive versus centrist is that this very well, because the way things are evolving, we'll see what happens. This candidacy, this Biden-Harris ticket, 4 years from now, it really might end up with that third party really taking formation. Because if these progressives sit there and for 4 years, none of their things are addressed. And some of this stuff, it just might not be able to be addressed if this recount doesn't go the way of the Democrats, and McConnell is sitting there on the Senate, and none of this stuff is going to happen. And really Biden, so then Biden's going to be like, look, the only way I can make anything happen is if we water it down, we work with Mitch, and we get it signed. I think that you very well might find a real strong third party that's coming out of this in 4 years.
Which will be quite interesting, right? Because what does that third party really look like? I think as much as we see our nation divided, we have experienced so much trauma. And I think that's also kind of causing the divide. I think we are seeing media, not our media, because we're having unfiltered conversations and allowing other people to, kind of communicate back and forth with us. But, I switch between CNN and Fox News, and I'm just like, wow, it's kind of toxic on both sides. And there's a lot of just discernment between the two. And I wish that I think when we lived overseas, Amari, and we watched BBC, we really got to watch it from a different lens, from someone who didn't have any skin in the game, right? They didn't have a dog in the fight. And we really got to get facts and information without someone taking a side. I hate that I have to watch two news channels to see how both sides are feeling so that I can make my own opinion about things. It's unfair. And it's fake news on both sides.
Yeah, I can tell you this, right? Stepping away from the elections and everything else, my experience in the Seattle protests, man, the Chaz, the Chop, the Western Barricade, and everything it was like the only people that I would really talk to was one, like local, the local affiliates would hit me because we were in the Chop. We go, I'd go on Cairo FM a lot with Dave Ross and Hannah Scott. And it was communicating directly to them about this is what I see right here. So I went on news shows where someone was asking me a question, and usually always live news shows at that. You know what I'm saying? So I got to say what I got to say or whatever. But you won't believe how many far left and far right news sources wanted me to come on their channel, and they already had a predetermined outcome of where they wanted to drive the story about the protest. So, I mean, all the way from far left news outlets all the way to far right news outlets. And this was just sitting there in the Chop. And I knew what the outcome was going to be. And so I denied interview. Like, Converge would be much bigger now. My profile would be very, very big if I took a lot of those interviews. But I turned them down because I knew where it was going to go, and where it was going to go wasn't going to be beneficial for our city. And that's what we're all looking for, is really like, to better our city and not to divide our city. So that was just our local politics. And when you put that on a national scale, all these guys have a lot of predetermined narratives, like whole networks. It's just predetermined as to no matter what you put into the computer, it's going to come out in a certain direction. And I think that, that the way that media is right now, it does such a disservice to everybody.
Yeah, it does. It's toxic in a lot of different ways. You get people who turn on the news and they're just stuck. I mean, I have family members who are stuck to the TV and just soak in everything that a lot of these commentators are talking about. And they're there to get ratings, and they are spinning the story over and over for the ratings rather than, showing both sides. And I think it's important for people. And, that was one of the reasons why I decided to join Converge, is because I wanted to be able to give out information and allow other people to formulate their own opinions.
Yeah, no, this is true. This is true. So we're closing in on 8:30. So we'll go around the horn here. Clearly, I mean, man, this guy, we were joking earlier. They had a clip, right? And they were saying all the stuff that Trump, that they were saying all the stuff that Trump isn't allowing, like Biden. They're like, yeah, well, GSA is yet to release funds for him to do this and that. He's not getting security clearances. He's not doing X, Y, and Z. And then they were like, world leaders have sent messages to the State Department and they haven't relayed them to Biden. And I was like, oh man, that's a petty one there. They're holding up Biden's mail. he ain't even getting his mail, man. So I know that we're gonna meet again and talk about this ongoing situation. But before we get out of here, final thoughts, Mike Davis.
Man, we're almost, we're like this close to not having to have Trump in our face all day, every day. I'm looking forward to the day when, as the president, we have to pay attention. Like, he's our president. No matter what, you got to listen. It'll be nice when he's just another guy, another old white guy making noise in the corner somewhere. That's what I'm looking forward to. And I just want to remind everybody on our way out of here that, this virus is here with a vengeance. Numbers is higher than they've ever been. So just, be safe out there, y'all.
Julia?
I want to piggyback off Mike's point. I think as much as I'm excited and interested to see our new administration, I'm also here for the entertainment of what is Donald Trump after he is not president of the United States anymore. So I'm going to be tuning in. I'm going to be eating my popcorn. I'm going to be sitting right here with y'all, tuning in to talk about everything. I want to tell everyone to remain encouraged and to remain engaged. Local, I always preach about this. Local elections are super important. Hold your elected officials accountable. Show up to your city council meetings. Testify. Write in if you can't show up. We're doing everything on Zoom now. So get on, sign on, and, have conversations with your state board of education if you feel like, you don't want your kids to go back to school. Show up to these meetings and have these community conversations if you want to get something done. We see that every single vote counts. So every single testimony counts. Everything counts. If you can get it on record, you can make it known. So I encourage everyone to participate, be involved, tweet, post something on Instagram, be engaged. The fact that we have people coming on here to be a part of this so we can talk about their opinions, that's a part of engagement, right? So do more, mask up, and wash your hands.
Man, well, okay. I would say for me, I mean, a lot of my messaging doesn't really change. Unfortunately, I'm hoping that it does. On the local side here, although it's a presidential election and not anything really local outside of some initiatives and ballot initiatives, I'm just anxious to see and willing to work with any of these elected officials and of course other people that are really gonna push for sustainable change in our community and not even just our community, because I think if you make improvements in the Black community, then you're also making improvements across all marginalized communities, at least in our state, in the state of Washington. Yeah. But I also encourage people to stay engaged, and I say that at the end of the day, what's real funny is if you have a conversation with most people in America, even though it's split this and that, fairly half, if you take some of these layers of and labels away and just have meaningful conversations about what's important to people, then you find that we as a people really ain't that far apart. It's when we start layering everything on. And so for me, I'm always optimistic, like I said, to understand where other people are coming from, even if I don't agree, but that understanding helps to be able to build a bridge of communication. I do want to reinforce this. And Governor Inslee came out today at 5:30 and said, it's like, man, this COVID thing is very, very serious, very serious. And we want to encourage all of our viewers out there, please mask up. I know some people think that COVID's whatever, but you know what? It's not going to hurt you to just play along there. You know what I'm saying? For a few months until we get this over with. On behalf of Mike Davis from the South Seattle Emerald and the ever opinionated Julia Jessie of Converge Media. Good night, everybody.
Good night, y'all.
Good night, guys.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your man, the Big O. Want to take a moment here, first of all, to say thank you for your support of Converge Media. We definitely wouldn't be here without you. Secondly, I want to thank everybody who is a supporter of Converge Media on Patreon. We definitely appreciate your support. And for those of you might not know, I'll let you know, we operate 100% off of donations. Some donations big, most donations small, but we love all donations all the same. If you haven't done so yet, I want to encourage you to go on our website to whereweconverge.com/donate and subscribe. You click on the Patreon link and you can subscribe for as little as $5 a month. There's higher tiers beyond that as well. And just know that your subscription literally keeps us on the air. Once again, I want to thank you for all your support.